BBQ smoking is taking Australia by storm, with more and more people wanting to create their own briskets, ribs and pulled pork in their very own backyards. Nowadays, there's quite a large range of smokers to choose from, so how do you know which style of smoker suits your needs best? When you start the initial research phase, you'll notice that there's gas smokers, electric smokers, pellet smokers, ceramic smokers, offset smokers, vertical bullet smokers, and the list goes on. With today's demonstration, I hope to give you the pros and cons as well as a quick rundown about how all of those different smokers operate to help your decision making a little easier. So this is a gas smoker. Now as you can see, it's got an ignition down the bottom and it's got the knob here. So just by turning that knob, like a normal barbecue, that allows you to adjust the amount of temperature that's coming through your smoker. On the front, they also typically have a temperature gauge, so you can monitor the internal temperature of your smoker. You can see that gas smokers typically have multiple racks, and that's great for cooking smaller cuts of meat, or you can hang your sausages, etc. So as you can see in here, that's where you've got your gas burner, and you can adjust the amount of flame coming out of the gas burner by simply turning this knob higher or lower. Now the way that you get your smoke is the burner sits underneath this pot here. Now this is where you put either your pellets or your wood chips, and it's the heat from the burner that heats up the chips or the pellets in here, and that creates a smouldering effect and allows your oven to heat up with smoke. Above the pot, you can see here we've got a water pan. Now by putting water in that water pan, that helps regulate the temperature. It also serves another purpose. It catches all the drips from the meat that's cooking and stops the drips from going anywhere near your gas burner. So gas smokers are a great entry-level unit. They're pretty easy to set up. You simply just attach a normal gas bottle and away you go. Obviously you always need to make sure that you've got gas ready, otherwise you don't want to run out of gas partway through a cook. They're a decent sized unit. They've got multiple racks here. You can take out some of the racks if you don't want to use them. You will be limited though if you're trying to cook a really big sized brisket. You won't be able to fit it in long ways, but it does have the added benefit of having quite a long cooking section here, so you can hang your sausages, etc. So here we have an electric smoker. So these are just simply plug and play. They've got a 240 volt 10 amp plug on them. You can just simply plug them into a power point and away you go. Down the bottom, they'll either have just an on-off switch, or some of them also have an adjustable temperature control. That way you can moderate the amount of heat that's coming through your element. Similar to the gas smokers, you can see that they've got the racks. They're vertical, so they're great for hanging sausages. But again, you're limited to the size of the piece of meat that you can fit. So again, if you wanted to fit a really decent sized brisket, you might struggle, but you'll certainly be able to fit heaps of chicken, ribs, a smaller brisket, pork belly, etc. So as you can see, down the bottom, you've got your electric element. The way that it works is, again, you've got this pot here. This is where you put your wood chips or your wood pellets. Now, when we close the drawer, you'll see that that pot sits over the element. The heat from the element heats up that pot and creates a smouldering effect with your pellets and your wood chips, and then that way your smoker will fill up with smoke. The other feature is that it's got a water bowl. So if you fill this up with water, that will not only catch all the drips from the meat, which will protect your element, but it will also help regulate the temperature. Electric smokers are a great entry-level unit. You simply plug them in, turn them on, put your chips in, and you can walk away for a few hours and know that when you come back, your meat and your oven temperature will be at the same temperature. This kind of smoker is an electric smoker that you simply plug into a 240 volt power point. It differs from a normal electric smoker in that it uses biscuits. Now these biscuits travel down this chute, and based on the settings that you've set it at, it'll auto feed these biscuits through to the smoking chamber. I'll show you how that works in a bit more detail. So this is the water bowl. So you have this filled up with water. Now what happens is every 20 minutes, one of these biscuits will shoot down the chute and it will cause the burning biscuit here to extinguish in the bowl of water. So the one that's on this section here, that's what's burning, that's what's creating the smoke. And then after 20 minutes, it gets extinguished in the bowl of water. Here at the rear is where you've got the electricity element. After say an hour to an hour and a half of smoking, you may decide that you don't want to use any more biscuits. So you can just don't put any more biscuits through here, and your smoker will then turn into an oven and continue to cook like a normal oven. So the great thing about the biscuit smoker is that if you wanted to set and forget it, you absolutely can. You can just fill this up with biscuits, you can have it running continuously through the night. It'll maintain its temperature really well because of the sealed door that it has. And obviously you can fit quite a bit in here because of all the different racks that it has. Your only limitation may be that if you're trying to cook a really long rack of ribs or quite a large brisket, you might struggle, but you've still got plenty of cooking space for smaller cuts of meat. And you can also hang your sausages because it's quite a long vertical area there. This is a charcoal smoker. It doesn't operate off gas or electricity. Your heat source is purely from charcoal or bits of wood. So if you open this up, you'll see in here, this is where you put your charcoal and your wood. It all comes apart in layers. So in this bottom section, this is where you put your charcoal and your wood. Now your charcoal is your primary heat source, but you do use chunks of wood to get that added smoky flavour. On top of the charcoal, this is where you put your water bowl. So you put water in here, you can line it with foil if you like, because this is where all the juice and the fat from your meat is going to drip. This is a rack here, so if you wanted to cook like a normal barbecue, you can barbecue, and that is the benefit of cooking on a charcoal grill, is you can barbecue, whereas you can't do that with a gas or an electric one. Then there's another stacker. So here you've got two levels that you can cook in. Some charcoal smokers also have a third level and they just keep on stacking up. They're great for hanging sausages, but as you can see on this particular model, you could potentially be limited if you're wanting to cook a bigger brisket. So the great thing with cooking with a small charcoal smoker like this is that you're getting back to the roots. You're cooking with charcoal, you're cooking with wood, you're getting that delicious smoky raw natural flavour. The disadvantage is it does require a little bit more tinkering. There's no gas element, there's no electric plug, so you're purely moderating the amount of heat that you have inside this smoker just by tinkering around with your charcoal. So if you're the kind of person that loves to get out there, tinker, and likes to experiment with different things, a charcoal smoker would suit you really well. If on the other hand you're the kind of person that just likes to plug something in and set and forget it, I'd probably steer clear of charcoal. So this is what is known as a ceramic grill. It's used for barbecuing, it's used for smoking, and it can also be used as an oven. Now the great thing about these ceramic grills is, as you can see, they're really thick. So with just a handful or two of charcoal, you pop this in the bottom and these are going to stay hot for hours and hours on end. So they're great for heat retention. The disadvantage, unfortunately, is the amount of cooking area that you've got. So if you're just cooking for a small family or a small gathering, that'd be perfect. If you're wanting to cook for a larger number of people, probably a dozen or more, you are going to struggle to be able to feed enough people using this kind of grill. This here is called a pellet grill. And the reason it's called a pellet grill is because it operates using pellets. On the section here, this is where you put the pellets. The pellets get fed via a metal auger from this section into the main cooking area. Now the way that a pellet grill works is via plugging it into a 240 volt electricity socket. You can moderate the temperature by turning the knob, and depending on the temperature, That determines how much pellets get sucked in from the hopper into the main cooking chamber. So this is the main section of the hopper where you put your pellets. Now as you can see in there, there's the metal auger. Now when it's plugged in and turned on, that auger spins, and as it spins it sucks in the pellets and transfers them from the hopper into the burning pot. So here inside the grilling area we can see this is where the pellets come through from the auger. Now when it's switched on, these pellets here will get hot and that will create the smoke. The great thing about a pellet grill compared to a normal electric grill is that you can get it up to grilling temperatures. So not only can you smoke in the pellet grills, you also can just cook a normal barbecue if you want to cook some sausages or steaks on there as well. Another advantage of a pellet grill is that you've got quite a long grilling area, so that will allow you to cook the largest pieces of brisket. You can fit quite large racks of ribs as well. They really are just a kind of set and forget. You just plug it in, make sure that your hopper always has enough pellets, and it'll just auto feed. You can easily cook in here for 20 hours and it'll all just do it for you. The disadvantage, however, using a pellet grill is that unfortunately the only way that you're going to get your temperature is by constantly having pellets in the hopper. So depending on what temperature you've got it set at, you can actually churn through quite a few pellets. Typically though, when we cook in pellet grills, we'll be cooking there for probably about 16 hours on the lowest temperature setting, and we really will only go through about that much. So this is what's called an offset smoker. And the reason it's called an offset, because as you can see on the right hand side there, you've got the box where the wood goes, and then you've got your main cooking chamber. So it's working through indirect heat. You don't actually have your heat source in the same area where all your meat's being cooked. So this is the firebox. This is where you light your charcoal and you also put your timber chunks. Now your heat is actually going to come from the charcoal, whereas the chunks is what provides you with that extra dimension of the flavour. So you can adjust the amount of heat or the amount of air that is getting into your firebox by opening or closing side vents. Obviously fire needs oxygen to burn, so the more open the vent is, the more fire that you're going to have going in here and the hotter the temperature is going to be. Now the way it works is that the heat and the smoke from this area here gets sucked through this hole into your main cooking chamber. The amount of smoke and heat that also gets pulled in through to the cooking chamber will also vary depending on how open or closed you have the fire damper. Now the great thing about cooking in an offset smoker is the huge cooking area that you've got there. So in a smoker of this size, you can quite easily fit a whole suckling pig and another 4 pork shoulders. Also, because it's using charcoal, you can grill on here as well, just like a normal barbecue. Now one of the disadvantages of cooking in an offset smoker is that typically you're going to get hot spots closer to where the firebox is. But as you can see in this particular offset smoker, there are tuning plates in there. So by moving these tuning plates around, you'll be able to eliminate any hot spots. So just to wrap up, offset smokers are great if you need a decent sized grilling area, if you want that authentic charcoal smoky flavour. They're not so great if you're the kind of person that just likes to set and forget it. You do need to keep on top of your charcoal and on top of your smoke. It's a manual process. There is no gas or electric element in something like this. So the only way that you are maintaining your temperature is by stoking your fire and adding more charcoal. So there you have it, a quick rundown of the 7 most common types of smokers currently found in the Australian market. If you need a hand or if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Either give us a call or visit our website.